Hey guys, what is up? It is the Fast Break Report here, bringing you guys another vlog. So we got to talk about a very debatable topic, and I'm gonna tell you right now, people are probably not gonna like my take on this because I'm gonna ridicule some players that people like, but I want to talk about it because this is a conversation we have every single fucking year around the All-Star break. And that is the idea of expanding the NBA All-Star team rosters because guys get snubbed. You know, it seems like every year it's either Trae Young, Jalen Brunson, it's like Julius Randle. Like there's people every fucking year who, you know, shout from the rooftops that the All-Star team rosters need to be expanded, and it's bullshit because their favorite player didn't make it. And I'm going to tell you right now, man, I don't think they should expand the All-Star team rosters. If they do, they should expand it by one slot at most. Instead of 12 on 12, it's 13 on 13. The reason they should not go to 15 on 15 like standard NBA rosters are, the reason you should not go to 15 on 15 is because at some point, okay, having 30 to 35, maybe even 40 All-Stars is just fucking ridiculous. At some point, you start including guys who simply don't deserve to be there. And even right now, every year you have guys that get injured or guys who can't play. This year it was Joel Embiid. He's being replaced by Bam Adebayo. You know, like there's every year you got guys that, you know, are like all-star starters who end up getting replaced by other guys. So we already have reserves, right? And honestly, I kind of like the system the way it is now. If they expanded to 13, I really wouldn't care. You know, there are talks of expansion teams joining the NBA and all this other stuff. You know, they're talking about maybe putting a team in Vegas. So if they did expand it one roster slot while they add maybe one or two expansion teams, I could understand that. Like, to me, that makes sense. But when you get into the area of 14, 15 guys on each roster, suddenly you just, at some point, you start letting guys be on the All-Star team that don't deserve to be there. Or be all-star reserves who don't deserve to be there. And while I understand all-star voting's not perfect, all right, you got, you know, the fan vote every year has guys in it that don't deserve to fucking be there. Guys like Zaza Pachulia, Alex Caruso, stuff like that. Like, there's people out there who vote for guys who simply don't deserve to fucking be there, okay? But my main issue with the whole thing is the first one being that, A, there's simply not enough minutes to go around, okay? Like, there's not enough minutes to go around to have 15 guys on each roster. The second reason that I don't like it is because 12 on 12 means that you actually have to be fucking good to make the All-Star team. And not saying that these guys who are getting snubbed aren't good. I'm simply saying to make the All-Star team, you got to be one of the 12 best players in your conference. So it makes the gateway to entry at least somewhat challengeable. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not something where they're just sending anybody to the fucking All-Star game. And if you start expanding the rosters to 14, 15 guys on each team, suddenly you start getting guys in there that simply don't deserve to be there. I don't think there's enough minutes to go around. I said that already. But the other thing is also, the other part of this I really don't like is the All-Star game is already a fucking joke. Okay, like, I'm just going to call it what it is. We all know this. It's a glorified exhibition game where no defense is fucking played. The All-Star game doesn't hold anywhere near as much merit as it used to in the early 2000s and in the past years prior. People actually played fucking defense. Now they don't, right? So it's already an exhibition game. It's already kind of a joke. But the one thing that people use all the time to compare people of, you know, the past to present day and even into the future is all-star games and all NBA teams and scoring titles, all-star game MVPs. When you start, like, making that just easily obtainable by everyone, what is the purpose of NBA accolades, right? Like, I'm gonna call it what it is. The NBA Hall of Fame is already a fucking joke, okay? And I know that there's people who aren't going to like that. There's going to be people who bitch about that, and that's fine. Like, oh, well, you know, this player's in the Hall of Fame for a reason. And yes, I will agree. there are people who, like, everybody makes the NBA Hall of Fame for a reason, right? But the reason they make the NBA Hall of Fame is not always because their accolades or statistics were amazing. For example, right? Derrick Rose. Anybody who's a feel-good story in the NBA who was maybe a good player, or honestly maybe like didn't even, I would say, like, as long as they were a decent player and had a couple years that were really good, if something unfortunate happens, they're still going to make the NBA Hall of Fame. Like, for example, one guy, and this is going to piss people off, I don't care, one guy who's definitely going to make the Hall of Fame one day who maybe doesn't deserve to be there is Derrick Rose. Okay? Derrick Rose has a league MVP. He's a 3-time All-Star, 1-time All-NBA, 1-time rookie. He won Rookie of the Year and was on an All-Rookie team. Those are the only accolades that Derrick Rose has. Now, I understand there's going to be people who, you know, for vibes, right? He had the injury. We saw him play in 07, 08, right? Or 08, 09. We saw what Derrick Rose was when he was healthy. And there's always going to be those people who think he deserves to be there because of that. The problem is the NBA lets anybody in that they feel is deserving, right? Now, the thing is, that's entirely subjective, and it's part of the reason why I think comparing eras is fucking stupid, because even though I do it, everybody does it, everybody's going to do it. The reason why I think you can't compare eras is because you've got guys like Derrick Rose who are going to make it. Drazen Petrovic made it. Drazen Petrovic literally is in the NBA Hall of Fame, and he's got one All-NBA team as an accolade. Now, I get it. He was a really good player. He had a tragic car accident in which he was killed in. But the thing is, right, so long as those outliers exist where, you know, they can just put you in the Hall of Fame because of, you know, they maybe feel it's the right thing to do or it's the sedimentary thing to do. Because of that, the NBA Hall of Fame will always have, I don't want to say an asterisk next to it, but it just goes to show that anybody can be in the fucking Hall of Fame. You know, that's the point that I'm trying to get across here. Granted, Derrick Rose and Drazen Petrovic, while they played, were very good players. They don't have the accolades. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are guys that I don't think have the accolades. You could make an argument for Derrick Rose being a league MVP, but you've got guys like Reggie Miller, Tracy McGrady, guys like that who have made the NBA Hall of Fame strictly on All-Star games or strictly on All-Star games and All-NBA teams, and that's it. So when we talk about expanding All-Star game rosters, I'm like, okay, great. So we're going to have guys who simply don't deserve to be All-Stars get the opportunity to be an All-Star, and, you know, they're going to have that on their resume, even though it's going to be, like, handed to them. Guys like B.J. Armstrong made an All-Star team, okay? Like, there's a lot of guys in the past who have made All-Star teams who maybe don't deserve to be All-Stars. I think Tony Kukoc made one. You know, like, there's guys that, like, Michael Jordan played with that you would look at and you're like, oh, wow, like, B.J. Armstrong made a fucking All-Star team, you know? So I just think if you make that gateway to entry even easier, like, at that point, I feel like even though bitching about players from era to era and comparing players is already stupid in the first place, you at the very least take away that, like, you're taking away that argument almost entirely. Like, you'd be taking away a lot of YouTube content for guys like Legend of Winning, okay? Like, it's just the idea, like, it takes away, it makes me feel like All-Star games and the Hall of Fame and accolades are almost meaningless. And I don't think that's something we want from the NBA. Understand, okay, Drazen Petrovic is in the Hall of Fame. Derrick Rose is going to be in the Hall of Fame. But 150 years from now, okay, once all of us are dead and gone who watched Derrick Rose play, and all of us who watched Drazen Petrovic play, do you think generations from now, the next couple generations from now, are going to look at that and say, yeah, Derrick Rose deserved and Drazen Petrovic deserved to be Hall of Famers? I guarantee you they're not. I guarantee you 100 years from now, maybe not even 100 years now, 50 years from now, you're going to have people my age and even younger making debates saying that Derrick Rose and Drazen Petrovic don't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And they're gonna say, okay, Drazen Petrovic made it because he died, and Derrick Rose made it because he got injured and was so beloved. And unfortunately, it's true. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the truth behind it. Even though they were good players when they played, they don't have the accolades and they don't have the longevity, right? Yes, Derrick Rose won a league MVP, fine. Okay, like, I understand that aspect of the argument. But most of the guys who are in the Hall of Fame have at least made 5 All-Star teams and 5 All-NBA teams. Most of them, okay? But if we go down this road of continuing to just make people Hall of Famers or make them All-Stars because we just feel it's the right thing to do, suddenly, what does your NBA resume matter? That's where I'm going with this. Because it's like, okay, we're just going to send guys there who don't belong there because the fans bitch about it. Okay, and not for nothing, but there's a chance, even though it's highly unlikely, we are in an up period right now in the NBA, right? The talent coming out of college and high school is astounding. You know what I'm saying? Like, the talent is the best that it's ever been. But who's to say that down the road, maybe the NBA isn't as good? You know what I'm saying? Like, I get that you're going to have your guys who make the All-Star team every year, regardless. Guys like Luka Doncic, guys like LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum. And for years to come, it's always going to be that way. Guys like, until for the next 10, 15 years, guys like Luka Doncic and Jason Tatum are always going to make it, okay? It's just like you get generational players who come along, every 5 to 10 years maybe, and they're going to be in the All-Star game for the remainder of their fucking careers for the most part, unless something tragic happens where they get injured or so on and so forth. But so long as they're playing basketball and playing it at a somewhat high level, you're going to have biases in there. It's already an imperfect process is what I'm saying. But if you just continue to make that gateway to entry easier and easier and easier, at what point do we say, like, the legacies are tarnished? Because that's something that's going to come up as well. People are going to start saying, oh, okay, well, Jason Tatum and Luka Doncic's legacies are tarnished because, in their 6th or 7th NBA season, they just decided they were going to let everyone and their mother into the fucking All-Star game, right? And I feel like we don't need that. You know what I'm saying? I feel like being an All-Star, even though the game is a joke, I still feel like there should be some type of merit to it that, like, yes, you were an NBA All-Star. Okay, meaning you are one of the 12 best players in your conference. And if we get to a point where we're just throwing people in there to fill spots, at some point, people are going to look at it and go, well, what the fuck are we doing? Like, all it's going to take is somebody who doesn't deserve, who, like, just blatantly doesn't deserve to be there, to make it, and people will be like, oh, well, this is a fucking joke. Like for example, Andrew Wiggins is playing like shit this year, right? Let's say Andrew Wiggins made the All-Star team this year, right? Just because they had to expand the spots. You would get people who are like, well, Andrew Wiggins doesn't deserve to be there. This is fucking stupid. Because that's what's going to happen. If they expand their rosters to 14, 15 players on each team, you're going to get people who went from bitching that their favorite players didn't make it to bitching that guys made it who shouldn't have made it. So I like the idea of it being at 12. I understand if they expand it to 13, if they add expansion teams to the NBA, which they're talking about doing. But for right now, okay, I like it just the way it is. I'm perfectly fine with it because once they start doing that, I feel like legacies start getting tarnished, and I feel like, it's preserving what is good about the game, okay, and preserving legacies. Once you start tarnishing legacies and just letting anybody make the All-Star team, letting anybody get into the NBA Hall of Fame, which they pretty much already do depending on your circumstance, I feel like that's where the league starts to lose its merit, and I don't want that. So tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comment section below. I understand this maybe wasn't the greatest explanation in the world, but, you know, because there's going to be people who are going to be like, oh, well, you think a dead guy shouldn't have made the NBA Hall of Fame. That's not necessarily what I'm saying. I'm simply saying so long as the barrier to entry into the NBA Hall of Fame is whatever the league says it is, right? If there's no requirement for it, then it's essentially kind of fucking useless at this point anyway. But, you know, I just don't want to see them make it where literally anybody can make it into the NBA Hall of Fame, or literally anybody can be a 5-time or 6-time All-Star, and they just start making it so, like, there's no validity or any merit to these accolades. You know, they don't deserve to be discounted is what I'm saying. Like being an all-star, an all-NBA, an MVP level guy doesn't deserve to be discounted because people are bitching that their favorite player didn't make it, or, you know, the same thing with the Hall of Fame. You know, they shouldn't discount it because people are bitching that maybe Derrick Rose doesn't make it. You know what I'm saying? Or Drazen Petrovic never made it. You know, I feel like once you start opening loopholes like that, like, oh, well, this player died, so we're going to throw him in the Hall of Fame, or, you know, this player got injured in their prime, so we're just going to put them in the Hall of Fame. I feel like once you start doing that, suddenly it's like, okay, well, you know, what the fuck is the requirement? You know, that's where I'm getting at. Not to, like I'm saying, I'm not trying to talk shit. I'm simply saying, so long as the barrier to entry is whatever the NBA says it is, it's bullshit. You know, so, and I don't want it to become bullshit. So tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comment section below. A like helps me out. Subscribe if you guys want to see more on the Fast Break Report, and I'm out of this motherfucker. Peace, guys.